James had hit rock bottom. Once a successful businessman, he seemed to have it all: a thriving company, a luxurious home, and the respect of his peers. In his heyday, he was the man everyone looked up to. But over the years, things changed. He became consumed by ambition, making choices driven more by greed than integrity. As his business grew, so did his ego. He began cutting corners, betraying colleagues, and making enemies. Those who had once admired him no longer recognized the man he had become. Eventually, his empire began to crumble under the weight of his poor decisions. The day it all came crashing down, James stood alone in his office, staring at the empty space that had once been filled with employees, clients, and opportunity. Lawsuits, financial ruin, and a tarnished reputation had driven everyone away. The partners he had deceived left. His friends distanced themselves. Even his family, disillusioned and disappointed, chose to walk away. James was left with nothing but the silence of his failure. Months passed. Each day felt the same as James struggled with the weight of regret. He isolated himself from the world, spending his time in a small, rundown apartment. Gone were the days of lavish living. Now he was barely able to pay his rent. The fall from grace was hard, but the realization that he had no one to blame but himself was harder. One afternoon, after yet another sleepless night of regret, James found himself wandering through the streets of his old neighborhood. Memories of his former life came flooding back with each step he took. He passed the restaurants where he once had business lunches and the buildings where deals were made. Now, it all felt like a distant dream. As he walked, something caught his eye: a small community center with a sign advertising a volunteer program. The sign read, "Help shape the future. Volunteer to mentor and teach underprivileged youth." James stopped in his tracks, staring at the sign. It stirred something inside him, a part of himself he had long buried under years of selfish ambition. He remembered the joy he once found in mentoring young professionals in his business, teaching them the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, and seeing them grow. Maybe this was a way to start again. Maybe, just maybe, this was his second chance. The next day, James returned to the community center. His heart raced as he walked through the doors, unsure of what to expect. Would they even want someone like him? A man whose reputation was now synonymous with failure? But something inside urged him forward. He had to try. Inside, he was greeted by a woman named Linda, who ran the volunteer program. James introduced himself, feeling a bit nervous as he explained that he was looking to volunteer. Linda smiled warmly and asked about his background. James hesitated for a moment, but decided to be honest. He told her about his past success and subsequent fall from grace, admitting that he was looking for a way to rebuild his life. Linda listened attentively and, to James's surprise, she didn't judge him. Instead, she welcomed him to the program and explained that the center focused on helping underprivileged children, many of whom came from difficult backgrounds and needed guidance not just in academics, but in life. James began volunteering as a tutor, teaching kids math and business skills. The first few days were challenging. Many of the children were guarded and uninterested in learning. They came from broken homes, faced poverty, and struggled with the weight of their own challenges. James could see the same hopelessness in their eyes that he had once felt in his own, but he didn't give up. Slowly, he began to connect with the children, sharing not only his knowledge, but also his story. He told them about his rise to success and his fall from grace, not to boast, but to show them that failure didn't have to be the end. He wanted them to understand that mistakes were part of life, and that the key was learning from them and moving forward. One boy, in particular, caught James's attention. His name was Malik, and he was often quiet, withdrawn from the other children. Malik struggled with school and rarely participated in class. When James asked him about his dreams, Malik simply shrugged and said, "What's the point? No one expects anything from me anyway." James recognized that feeling. The feeling of being overlooked, of believing that you had no future. He made it his mission to help Malik believe in himself. Over the weeks that followed, James spent extra time working with Malik, encouraging him to open up not just about school, but about life. Slowly, Malik began to trust James and started sharing pieces of his story about his absent father, his mother working 2 jobs, and the lack of support he felt at home. James listened, offering advice and encouragement. He told Malik that his circumstances didn't define him and that he had the power to change his future, just like James was trying to do. Gradually, Malik's attitude shifted. He became more engaged in his studies and his grades improved. More importantly, he began to believe in himself. That as time passed, James found that his own life was transforming as well. The more he gave to the children, the more he healed. Volunteering at the community center became his lifeline. It gave him a renewed sense of purpose, something he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't the man he used to be, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like a good thing. Through his work at the center, James also met other volunteers. People who had their own struggles, but were dedicated to giving back. They became his new circle, offering him the support and friendship he had lost in his previous life. He no longer felt isolated. He felt part of something bigger than himself. Years later, James stood at a graduation ceremony. Malik, now a confident young man, was the valedictorian of his class. As Malik gave his speech, he talked about the importance of believing in yourself and how one person's belief in him had changed his life. James sat in the audience, filled with pride, not just for Malik, but for the journey he had been on himself. He had gone from the depths of failure to finding redemption, not through wealth or success, but through giving back and helping others. He had rebuilt his life, not by reclaiming what he had lost, but by creating something new, a life filled with purpose and meaning. In that moment, James realized that true success wasn't about money or status. It was about making a difference, lifting others up, and finding fulfillment in giving rather than taking. He had found a new kind of wealth, one that no failure could ever take away. And so, James's story serves as a reminder to all of us that no matter how far we fall, there is always a way back. Redemption is always within reach. It's never too late to change, to grow, and to find the path that leads to true happiness.